I am here with Shelly, who I worked with about 2 years ago now, and we went through some stuff on her relationship and how to really just start interacting and working better together. So, Shelly, I just thank you for jumping on here with me and you know letting somebody know that they're not alone, even when they think they know a lot of things, when they think they have things figured out, that sometimes it takes person from the outside to come in and show you what it is that's missing or how you're able to do things maybe a little bit better and how to be able to connect again with your partner. So, I mean, that's a big thing, and a lot of people don't know how to put their ego aside or their mind aside and say, "Hey, I need some help here because something isn't working." So, thank you for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So, okay, so Shelly, we were just talking about it, and you were just saying, how were you guys able to start seeing things differently, and how were you able to really start to communicate and work with your husband a little bit better?
I think being in a position where somebody from the outside who doesn't I've I justified a lot of the things that I did based on things that he had done, and it created a cycle. So having somebody outside of that who was able to actually tell me that what I was doing was wrong, um forced me to open up and actually look at where I was creating a lot of my own pain and then blaming him for it.
Right. And then how was
So
that
that was a big
pain?
one for me.
Yeah. How was that pain affecting the relationship?
It created a lot of fighting, really high expectations that were totally unattainable. Um, the majority of what I wanted, I already had.
Mm,
I was just unable to see it because I was stuck in my own loop of pain and frustration.
right. And then what did that do? That caused a lot of tension, fighting. Like, how did that look?
Um, there was tension, there was fighting. He was more of a personality to shut down, whereas I was more likely to keep talking.
Mm,
And the more that I kept talking, the worse things would get. I would look for things to be upset about, um which would cause him to shut down more, which over time was affecting our ability to do things together, affecting the enjoyment of doing things with the kids or as a family, um, or even being able to have a simple conversation like how was work. Even that would annoy me at that
mm.
point.
Yeah. So you were on edge
So
a lot of the time.
being able to almost always,
Yeah.
which forced him into a state of being unsure of almost everything that he said and he did.
Hmm.
And then I was almost losing respect for what I was creating without noticing that I was creating it. Because his
Mm,
intention was never to cause any pain or upset for me. So he was constantly trying to look for ways for me to feel better or for him to be better. And that would also frustrate me.
mhm. Would you say it's more like that's just what you were used to, so you almost felt like you were in self-protection mode, but you didn't know it at the time?
Yeah. I was very,
Yeah.
very much in like a survival mindset only.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize how much I felt more comfortable alone.
Yeah. Because
I
you'd been alone
created
for
a
so
belief
long.
within myself. Yeah.
Hmm. Well, you were
And
used to
it was
doing things
comfortable
on
for
your
me.
own.
That was my favorite place. Yeah.
Yeah, we have a little bit of a delay here between us, so Some of the things like when we're going back and forth, they get a little bit off here, but that's okay. Um, yeah, I mean that's the thing, right? When you're used to doing something on your own, or you have to be independent and strong for so long that everything that you do, everything that you give, and you give from a place of like from your heart, and you want the best for others, and you want to do the best, but then you see something's not coming back, or what you expect to get back isn't really coming, and it shows up in different
Yeah.
ways, right? So anger, frustration, tension, which causes fighting, and then it can lead to people really going, I don't even know what else to do.
Yeah. Which is what I did.
Yeah. And then that's when you contacted me and said, hey, something isn't right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now,
I
how,
found it very
how,
difficult to go to anybody.
yeah. So yeah. And that's a big thing, right? Is people a lot of times, it's almost embarrassing to say, I need help, or I don't know what to do, because,
Mhm.
because you do know a lot, and sometimes that can get in the way too, right? It's like you know a lot about a topic, or you know a lot about how relationships work, or
Mhm.
how you should be doing things, and yet you don't see it from the same eyes as somebody outside looking in.
Yeah.
And then you have to get out of your own way to say, okay, something isn't working, I don't know what it is, can you figure this out?
Yeah. Which was the hardest part for me.
Yeah, yeah, it was. And I remember when the first time we got together, it was all of us. So the three of us were working together, and it was just kind of like, well, you da 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 da, and it was like this back and forth, and it was just like, wow, there's just too much. We gotta reel this
Yeah.
back and look at individually, right?
Yeah.
So many times people think like, we got to fix the relationship, and it's not the relationship that has the problem. It's the people, it's the individuals, right? What is that pain? What is that
Yeah.
anger? Where is that coming from, and why is it keep coming up? So and I remember when you were just telling me what you were going through and what you were experiencing, you said, I don't know, like I don't know, am I wrong? Like, am I wrong in this? Like, what is going on? And when you were told you weren't right, you didn't like it,
No.
but you were open to hearing, and you were open to suggestion, which is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what was that like? What was it like having somebody look at your situation and say, "Hey, these are some things that you need to work through, to get through, so then you can open up and talk about it."
So I had made sure in advance that I did my research. I did not want to go to somebody that I had never worked with in the past, or I didn't know their personality type or anything else, because I work in the industry of helping others, and it was difficult for me to just go to anybody because personality plays a huge role as well. And you can misinterpret different things. And me and Will both, in our own personalities, we're intense people. So a lot of different parts of that can be misunderstood, which it was the big part of why I did not want to originally go to talk to somebody. Will is the one who wanted to talk to somebody. I was 100% sure that I was right and everything just needed to be my way. So I think going to somebody that I already respected as a professional and as a human being is that was the driving factor to make me actually stop and think about what I was doing.
Yeah. Yeah, and
I
that's a
had
big
seen
thing.
success. Like, yeah. So I had already seen a lot of your success stories when you were in your training business. There were so many people that had success stories from how you helped them emotionally during that process. So that was a big part of it for me. There was like I needed somebody that would understand both sides, which is hard to come by. A lot of people will lean more to understanding one side.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like you and I've known you for a while. Um, Actually, it's been a lot longer than I
Hmm.
think. Um, but it can be intimidating to Will as well because I've known you, so he may think that this person's just going to take your side automatically.
Yeah.
That can happen,
I think
right?
when you
So
automatically didn't, that helped too.
yeah, yeah. I mean, he needed to see that I'm unbiased.
Yeah.
I don't have an emotional attachment to any one person. I'm invested in the relationship. I want to see the
Yeah.
relationship come alive and work out and right come together. So now that we went through that and you were able to say, okay, this person's unbiased. This guy, he's actually now giving me the tools. Like, what were the things that really allowed you to start opening up so you could actually receive what Will had to say and where he was able to actually start opening up? Because I got to work with both of you individually also and in the
Hmm.
relationship. So, what was the biggest difference, I guess, for you personally to say, okay, this is happening, this is what I needed, and these are the results of our relationship now?
So I think we had done a couple of, I think it was the hypnotherapy sessions,
Hmm.
um, that helped me realize where a lot of my thought patterns came from and what my expectations were. Why do I even have those expectations? So being forced to look at that, um, forced me to see that a lot of the expectations that I had, they didn't even make any sense the more I broke it down smaller. Um, and a lot of it was expectations to repeat old patterns that created more pain, but that pain had become comfortable.
Hmm.
So when the pain was no longer there, I panicked. So it was quite a bit of work to work on being vulnerable and the power in that. So I think being able to bring that vulnerability to the relationship changed the entire dynamic of the relationship. And even now, if arguments start happening or the bickering and the fighting, um, it's pretty quick that I realized it's that I have stopped being vulnerable and then I have created the storm that comes with that.
And that's not an easy place to get to, right? That's something like it's a hard look.
No, I bet it's easy now.
It's easy now, but in the beginning, it's a little bit
It's
painful. But okay, so that pain, the pain that you
yeah.
went through to realize that, that was temporary.
Hmm.
What is it like now?
Yes. Um, it's very freeing now.
Hmm.
So I think um I just don't really get angry anymore.
Hmm.
Once I learned what exactly I was doing, I stopped I just stopped getting angry. So I just don't feel the same feelings that I used to feel
Right.
ever. Like in my
Good.
day-to-day everyday life, I just don't feel that.
And you were somebody who walked around angry all the time, but didn't know it.
Yeah, it was just I didn't recognize it whatsoever.
Mhm,
And I used to be told all of the time that I was very intimidating.
mhm.
And I very much clung to the whole I'm not intimidating, you're just intimidated. It's not my problem. Until I learned what it was, and I no longer hear that.
Right? And so then when you released that, so when you went through that experience and you released that, how has it allowed you to connect with Will now, even though you guys live in different provinces?
Um, it's a lot easier now. I actually there's a different intimacy that was created like in our conversations now. So our conversations can go we're we both are fairly deep people. We get into some seriously deep conversations.
Mhm,
Um it used to be a struggle sometimes being honest or whatever, but there's no fear that I'm going to say the wrong thing or he's not scared he's going to say the wrong thing. We can get into some serious conversations about different thoughts and opinions and everything else, which has made it so that the distance doesn't feel so bad because we're still able to have those conversations through the phone or through video that keep us connected.
mhm.
So it feels less alone now with him being in a different province but having these conversations than it felt 2 years ago living in this same house sleeping in the same bed every night.
Yeah. It's amazing what can happen when you you kind of like shut off that, I don't know, that anger, that whatever's pent up, whatever that feeling is, and you allow yourself to
Mm-hmm.
just be. Now the good thing is that you both did the work, right? It wasn't just
Yes.
one-sided. When it's one-sided, it can be difficult, right? Someone's trying to understand the other person and the other person just keeps shutting down, or they say um, X, Y, or Z. It doesn't matter what they say. They just tell you a bunch of things and then it doesn't really go the way you want it to go. But because
Yeah.
they both were able to open up and do the work, it made it a lot easier for them.
I think even still now, if we have a disagreement, we're still able to take a break for a few minutes and almost take like a personal inventory of what we're actually feeling. And does any of this even have anything to do with the current argument
Hmm.
or the other person? Because sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't.
A lot of times it has nothing to do with really anything about the other person. It's just whatever you're feeling, whatever that emotion, whatever you're experiencing in the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So,
we used to very much take everything personally. So if the other one was in a bad mood, it automatically, it's just obviously they're mad at me. This is a problem.
mhm,
So with your help, it was a lot easier to sometimes people are in bad moods. It's really not the end of the world.
yeah.
And as simple as that sounds saying now, it wasn't simple back then in those moments. It always felt like a personal attack.
Yeah. You're grumpy. Why are you grumpy?
But
You're
we have small children, we have jobs, like we're out in the public. It's hard and
Mhm.
life just sucks sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, buddy. Speaking of little ones,
Speaking of little ones.
go go
So
on with
that's
your
a big
sister,
part
bud.
of it, right? It's when other people or um, when something happens and it just comes up, like life happens. It's gonna happen. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter who it is, what it is, but when you're open and you're willing to learn how to actually connect to the other person, because you guys were talking or yelling at each other, right? But
All day, every day.
a lot of time people think that's communicating.
Yeah.
And that's not communicating, right? Talking is not communicating. being able to actually connect to another human being, being able to talk to the on a level of what like whatever's going on in the moment, right? So that connection allows the communication to actually happen. Talking is not communicating.
Yeah.
So what's been the difference between talking and now actually connecting and communicating? How has it changed your relationship?
So I remember when I first came to you, I used to describe it as it felt like we spoke different languages.
Hmm.
Um, and even sometimes now, I've been able to recognize like that sentence specifically when it starts to feel like we speak different sentences or different languages. It's because we're both coming at the problem in an aggressive manner because of our intensity. And we're bringing that, the ego really is, we're coming from a place of ego. So when we're able to then drop that, bring back the vulnerability, it almost always changes the wording and the tone that we're talking to each other in. And then usually the problem is solved instantly because we realize there really was no problem anyways. It was all of those other things. And we're talking about the same thing.
Yeah. So that's allowed you to solve problems quicker. That's allowed you to actually,
Yeah.
obviously when you don't fight, you're able to have that level of intimacy. You're able to have that level of connection that you didn't have before. And that's why it's easier to have the relationship that you have now, even though you live in different provinces, you actually feel closer to this person than when they were living in the same house, sleeping in the same bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing.
So
So,
we
um,
did fix all this stuff though before we were in separate provinces.
true. Yes, that is true.
So we had a year living together and then separate provinces.
Right. So, okay. So now somebody who's looking at, okay, I don't think I've got problems, I've got relationship problems, I got things that I've going through. I don't know what it is. I don't know this person, but what would you say to somebody who's like who doesn't know me? Because you knew me and you felt comfortable. But if somebody who doesn't know
Mhm.
me and they're going, oh, I'm not sure, is this gonna help? Is this gonna work? What would you say to them?
If you're in a place that you're willing to look at yourself, then it is going to be hugely beneficial. But because of your honesty and your ability to be totally biased in the situation and just say exactly what you see, if people are not in a place that they're ready to actually heal, you're going to make them mad.
Hmm. But is it okay to get mad?
Yeah, I get mad at you all the time when you tell me I'm wrong,
You're right, right? So
but
if
it's
if
honest.
it is, and that's the thing, right? It's you have to be willing to get uncomfortable to then become comfortable.
Hmm.
Because if you're not uncomfortable, or if you're
Yeah,
not disturbed at all, or if you don't think that anything needs to be changed, then you're not going to actually progress. You're not going to actually get the help that you need. But if you're willing to step in and face some things, and I don't know what they're going to be, but you were willing to face whatever it was that needed to happen in the moment to be able to break through that and
yeah,
actually say, okay, here's what I actually needed, and now I'm able to now I have what I want.
yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, Shelly, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and um, letting others hear what you have to say, because it's not easy. And it's not easy to share your story with others either. I mean, this is a very vulnerable thing, and a lot of people don't like to do this, but this is something that's more needed now than ever. We have record breakups, we have divorces happening, we have people who are breaking up and then they feel lonely after the fact, or they haven't they don't know how to
Mhm.
connect to the next person that they're with. So or allow them to actually come in, because they actually hold on to a lot of anger like you were doing.
Yeah.
So
I
now, go
actually
ahead.
like I learned from you. Oh, I did learn from you the power in vulnerability.
Mm,
So I had previous beliefs that being vulnerable meant being weak. And I truly believed that I didn't function that way and that I had moved past this and everything else. And then when I unfolded some of those thoughts behind some of my actions, you were able to help me see nothing about me was being vulnerable.
mm,
I had built up brick walls surrounded by steel walls with another layer of brick. I had everything as tight as I could possibly have it.
mm.
And I feel significantly stronger now that most of my life is very vulnerable. I don't care. I'm throwing it all out there. If people don't want to hear it, that don't listen.
Mm.
But I'm not hiding it anymore because I never want to go back to what I was before.
Yeah. Yeah, and the power in that, right? So if you're somebody who is going through something, or you're want to reconnect, or you're a single person who feels that, whatever it is that you can't do right, or just trying to figure these things out, I invite you to reach out. I invite you to click the link below and set up a call so we can have a conversation and see if this may be the right fit for you. And like Shelly said, the difference is night and day from where she was to where she is now. And had she learned that to let that anger go when she was single, a lot of these problems that they had wouldn't really have ever come up. So the good thing was for her is that she was able to do it with a partner, somebody who was there, supportive, all of these things. But if you're single or if you're with somebody, this is the type of thing that we all need it. We're not taught this. I mean, this isn't something that you can just watch a quick video on and figure these things out. This is something that you need to go through a process and really pull out whatever it is. It doesn't matter what it is, and be able to move forward. So again, Shelly, thank you so much for joining, and whoever got a lot of good stuff out of this, as always. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And that's it. So thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.